Hi, everybody. This is David Nevins for City Biz, and welcome to our program today. And today, our guest is Andrew Janet, and he is the managing principal of Janet and Suggs law firm in Maryland. Andrew, welcome to our program.
Thank you, David. It's good to be here.
We're happy to have you, Andrew. Let's just begin with a general introduction of your law firm, what you specialize in, and your expertise to introduce our audience to Janet and Suggs.
Sure, thanks. Janet and Suggs has been around for a number of decades now, specializing in a variety of different personal injury cases, um, focused on representing the injured plaintiffs. Historically, we've always done medical malpractice cases. In terms of what I do some medical malpractice, but I'm more focused on child sexual abuse cases. We have a number of those cases we filed in many different states against institutions that enabled sexual abusers, schools, churches, juvenile detention facilities, and other institutions. So that's kind of what we do more generally, and that's also what I focus on.
And I know you have your firm, of course, is widely respected, and as you noted, you've been doing this for a long time. You and your colleagues. You alluded to it for sure, but I know you have a special, I guess I'll say, focus on delivering justice and hopefully some closure too to sex abuse victims. Could you just talk about that for a minute?
Sure, absolutely. I've been doing that pretty much since I started at the firm a little over 7 years ago. We, we have seen kind of the way that the nation is finally waking up. Well, not and the world is waking up to the insidious nature of child sexual abuse, the way that it creates devastating long-term effects for abuse survivors, and finally reforming their laws in order to make it more possible for survivors to come forward, bring lawsuits, get their voices heard, and seek justice for what happened to them. And so, as part of this, as part of this change to the law, we, we've been doing more and more in terms of getting involved in representing these very deserving clients, and it's been really important to me to help all these people, and very rewarding as well.
I can imagine so. Let's get into the nitty gritty just a bit. So it is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that a circuit court judge in Baltimore City recently issued an order related to the Maryland Child Victims Act, lifting the stay on, I think, more than 1,200 active cases that can now go forward in the courts once again. So correct any statement that I just made that is inaccurate, but otherwise share with us the importance of that ruling.
No, that's right, David. I mean, there were many cases that were filed in a wave in the wake of some changes that the Maryland General Assembly made to the Child Victims Act. And as a result of that, the Baltimore City Circuit Court um, stayed all of the cases that were filed while they said they wanted to figure out some consolidated procedures to apply to those cases. So all the cases filed in Baltimore City were stayed for about a little under 5 months. And then, yeah, there was an order issued in every single Baltimore City case, um, which said that the cases are going to be unstayed and then they were going to be consolidated for certain purposes before a number of different judges that are designated to uh, have cases of certain categories. So, for example, the many cases that were filed against the state of Maryland, which includes, I think, all of the cases that were filed involving the Department of Juvenile Services facilities. Those were consolidated before Judge Avery, for example. And then there are a number of cases that were filed against religious institutions that are not in bankruptcy. So basically, religious institutions that are not the Archdiocese of Baltimore. They're consolidated before a different judge, Judge Geller, et cetera. And then there are joint conferences within each of these groupings that are supposed to determine whether liaison counsel can be selected for each side. And that just means there's one lawyer or law firm that's going to be selected as the main communicator on behalf of all the plaintiffs' counsel or all the defense counsel in each group, subject to feedback, obviously, from the other lawyers. And then that process will help coordinate discovery materials. It could coordinate briefing on certain issues. There could be coordinated depositions, et cetera. So it's all a kind of a procedural. It's an order setting forth certain procedures that will apply to all cases.
Yeah, I guess it's complicated, quite obviously from your answer, and I guess that's why we have lawyers involved in these cases. They're not so simple. So, just
That's
to
right.
clarify for our audience, though, um, a lot of attention has been paid in recent months, recent years, really, to those cases that involve let's say, the archdiocese and religious institutions and religious representatives. But besides that, you're heavily involved in issues and cases, I guess, against the state of Maryland, among others, the Department of Juvenile Services, and the like. Could you just talk briefly about how those two different sets of cases are proceeding and the differences among them?
Sure. Well, there's cases against the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Those are just all claims are being handled through the bankruptcy. So that's one proceeding. They filed bankruptcy right before uh, the time period that removed the statute of limitations
Right.
started. So that's been in bankruptcy the entire time of the Maryland Child Victims Act. And there's been a lot of effort to negotiate a proposed bankruptcy plan, which will then need to be voted on by all survivors. But no, I don't think that that's particularly close to being a proposed plan just yet. Um, the cases against the Archdiocese of Washington. The Archdiocese of Washington is not in bankruptcy, so those cases are proceeding through normal civil litigation, and those are, I think, mostly filed in Montgomery or Prince George's County, which are two of the counties covered by the Archdiocese of Washington. So those are moving forward that way. And then the cases against the Department of Juvenile Services, I believe, have mostly been filed in Baltimore City. So those cases were stayed during that time period of the Baltimore City stay, but these are going to become active now, and those are against a number of different entities, but largely the state of Maryland and this state agency, the Department of Juvenile Services, DJS. As it's known today, it's existed basically as it's known today as the Department of Juvenile Services since about 1967, and there's been a massive amount of mistreatment of the juvenile residents at these facilities ever since then. I mean, the U.S. Department of Health conducted a review of Maryland's juvenile services system as early as 1967 when the department started raised concerns about the detention centers being too large and unwieldy. And in the decades after that, there were just countless news reports about sexual abuse and physical abuse in these facilities. There was a class action lawsuit against one of the facilities, alleging just rampant mistreatment of the juveniles, including sexual abuse. There was an investigation by the Department of Justice, so more oversight by the federal government found just horrible abusive conditions in these facilities. And just it's shocking how many problems have been documented occurring in these facilities across the state of Maryland. So now there are many hundreds of cases filed related to this, and there's going to be some sort of reckoning for all these people who've been abused by the system.
Yeah, as there should. But Andrew, I
Yeah.
I was reading or hearing about, um, isn't there a move afoot, or was there last legislative session for the state to attempt to minimize its liability, and where does that stand?
So there, yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier with respect to the state making changes to the Child Victims Act. There were there were already damage caps set by the original Maryland Child Victims Act, but the once the Child Victims Act was upheld by the Maryland Supreme Court to be constitutional, the state started worrying about concerns to its budget. And so they went back and forth, the legislature, about whether to make some reforms. And eventually they came up with this plan to reduce the caps for any cases that were filed after May 31st of this year. So what that led to was just this haphazard scramble of everyone trying to file all their cases by May 31st. All of our cases are in by May 31st, so we have the original damage caps. Um, but anything filed after May 31st is going to have a lower damage cap.
Okay. And let me ask you this. This is obviously child sex abuse, sadly, is not restricted to Maryland, and you've been doing this work previously, so you have some experience in this area, um, if I'm not mistaken, in the state of New York. Share with us just a little bit about what your work there has involved.
Absolutely. So New York also passed its own Child Victims Act. Unlike Maryland's, which removed the statute of limitations entirely, New York's created a limited window of time when cases which otherwise would be seen as past the statute of limitations could be filed. And that's happened with many other states as well, including other states where we've filed cases like New Jersey, California, and a number of other states. Um, so in New York, I mean, these cases honestly have proceeded quite slowly. Uh, we still have a number of pending cases in New York against the dioceses there. I mean, a number of dioceses, most dioceses in New York have declared bankruptcy. So we still have pending bankruptcy claims in New York, as well as uh, civil lawsuits against dioceses that have not declared bankruptcy. We have cases against New York school districts, et cetera. And, I will say that New York went through this process as well of trying to come up with, standardized discovery through liaison counsel. From my perspective, it took a long time in New York, and the cases really languished. And yeah, I hope that Maryland doesn't go down the route of wasting months and years on going back and forth as to what the standard procedures are going to look like, and not follow that trend, because we have a number of people who've been waiting many years to be able to seek justice. Some of these people are certainly up in years, and you never know what might happen. So I deeply regret the many people who have passed away while their cases have been pending. And I'm hopeful that Maryland will not let these cases languish.
Well, Andrew, we wish you, much success as you continue to attempt to bring some justice. And then, with regard to the length of time that these cases are taking, I think in the very beginning of this conversation, you talked about that it's not just justice, but it helps bring closure. So the delay in settlement is a delay not only in justice, but a delay in closure. So
That is
anyway,
true.
good luck to your firm. Good luck to you as you continue to pursue this justice on behalf of the many, unfortunately, the many juvenile and adult sexual abuse victims throughout Maryland.
Th Thank you very much, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Andrew, if you don't mind, we'll have you back maybe in several months to give us an ongoing update as to how these cases are moving through the courts.
Sure, I'm happy to keep talking to you about all this.
That's great. Thank you again, Andrew, for your time.
Thank you, David.
And our guest today has been Andrew Janet. He is the managing principal of Janet, and Suggs. This is David Nevins for City Biz. Thank you so much for joining us today.